Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gear Priority Podcast. My name is Justin, and I am your host. I am joined today by Lloyd from Garage Growing Gear for this partnered episode.
Really excited for today's episode because we are chatting with designer, founder, and genius behind the Bogler Trowel, Ben Bogler. Welcome, Ben. How's it going? And where are you calling from?
Great to be here. Well, I'm here in the suburbs of Chicago in Illinois.
Fellow Midwesterner. That's good. We're outnumbering our neighbor to the north, Justin. That's great.
There's been a lot of Midwesterners on here. I feel like the Midwest is like this hub of like innovation and like backpacking products.
Right. It's not just corn, not just cows. It's innovative.
The automotive industry.
Yeah, so it's going to say there's a historical like manufacturing base around here. So I think it's kind of in the air, maybe.
Yeah, it's not the Rust Belt; it's the carbon fiber.
That makes
belt.
sense.
It's the Dyneema belt. There we go.
The Dyneema belt. That's a good one. So today, I'm excited for this episode as well because we're going to be diving deep into the design details, the engineering decisions, and all the features with the Bogler Trowel. For those who are following along on YouTube, I'll probably be holding up the trowel every once in a while. We'll put some images here and there so you can see the different parts of it that we're talking about. There you go. Ben has one too ready to go, and I think we'll describe as we go as well for the people who are audio only. But there's a lot of intricacies with this trowel, and just kind of from what I know, Ben, I think you have a great mind for design, and everything was very intentional with the trowel. So we'll dive into that. But before we really get nerdy, Lloyd has some rapid fire questions for you, so we can get to know you a little bit better.
For those that are like interested in like the real hard hitting questions, those will come later. But Ben, we've worked together over the last couple of years, and we've had a chance to ask each other some questions, get to know more about each other. But I've got a series of far more invasive and specific questions that I need to ask you that feel topical for this particular podcast. We'll start off with some low balls and move to some of the more hard hitting questions. But do you have a favorite type of soil to be able to dig in? And inversely, is there a type of soil that or like ground that you really don't like to trowel into?
Well, the stony stuff, of course, is horrible. Just last month, I was in Missouri on the what's it called, the Big Piney River. So even going way up, way past 200 feet away from the water, it's just all the river rocks, because of the historical movement of the river. It's just big round rocks everywhere. That's a pain. But just good old like rotten leaves and black soil. That's the best, That's really good place to go.
Some loam, maybe some sandy loam. I think if I was going to answer the question, it'd probably be a sandy loam, like. You get out that like clay content, or maybe a little bit like 20% clay content. And I used to have to identify soils for a job back in the day, so I know more about soils than I probably should.
Yeah, it's always nice to have all of that like dead foliage around. So even after you fill the hole with dirt, you like kick a bunch of leaves. And it's like, nothing ever happened.
No, for me, there's like nothing worse than like whenever I take the trowel out of my backpack, I feel like I've been handed a baton, and it's like, it is time. Like there's a countdown and a timer that has begun, and it's on. And there's nothing more deflating than like finding that spot and trying to dig and being like, oh, these timelines are not matching up. The amount of time it's going to take me to dig this hole and the time that I need to go to the bathroom in, these need to find themselves aligning much quicker.
If we ever get to go backpacking, Lloyd, I'm going to film a slow motion montage of me running towards you and then passing off a trowel, and then we can send that over to Ben, and Ben can use that for a TV ad during the Super Bowl or something.
I have heard a few times of people who say they dig a hole when they get to camp or like the night before. They dig a hole and then just like the next morning they're like, well, there's over there. They go back and when they need it, so
that's clever.
That's an
I feel like
interesting
I would
idea.
dig that hole, promptly forget where it was, and then just be in the exact same situation. And I'd probably like step in that hole, twist my ankle in the hole, and then be like, now I have to go to the bathroom and I can't walk. Great.
Yeah, you'd have to have the right balance of like having a good memory but bad control of your bowels, as opposed to like, sounds like, Lloyd, you're dealing with both. Like I'm
just not willing to risk it.
Not really. You're struggling in both of those departments. So it probably.
And I guess at this point in the podcast, we're assuming that everybody knows what the trowel is for, which is going number 2 in the wilderness.
That's a good point.
Exactly. Digging a hole to bury your poop.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Poop, that's the word.
Yeah, we can't deviate too far away from the poop-related conversations yet. So on that note, our next rapid-fire question is just, Ben, have you ever had what's like the best pooping spot you've ever had? Like, do you have like an iconic spot that like, I think about it as variables like bug-free view, like nice temperature. Like, was there a spot that you just like, you took out that Bogler trowel and you're like, it's time. And that spot just like really resonated with you?
Yep. Well, I mean, I haven't thought about this for a long time, but you're asking me and instantly I know where it is. This was in Patagonia, and there's a certain like high pass, and there's no trees for miles. It's just grass, so there's not a lot of privacy. But luckily, there's nobody anywhere. So it's like we had stopped there for lunch. We were basically on the pass. Like we looked down one way, and there's a river. I looked down the other way. There's a lake, and it's windy there because of the pass, right? So we're just right there, like in the middle of just see everything in all directions. The breeze in your face. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Great. Breeze is definitely a key variable. I feel like that's something that like, it's like a wind bidet, it just kind of like, it just like make you feel a little bit more alive.
Well, if you're using a bidet, it's good too, because then you get a little bit of drying action afterwards. So it's nice to have a little bit of wind. You just kind of either turn around or face into the wind, the back end face that into the wind, and you get a little bit of air freshening going on.
Wow.
This is good. Yeah, I'm into this. I'm glad that this is the tone that we're setting for this. Okay, Ben, I've only got one more for you. But I feel like there's been lots of videos made about this. I'm sure Justin talks about it in some videos. But do you have a particular like pooping position that you gravitate towards? Like, are you like a back to the tree? Are you like an Iron Man sitter? Are you like a crab? Like, how do you? What's your approach when you're coming in on the kill?
This is funny. We're going to need some diagrams or some very specific explanations for the listeners, because I don't even know what 2 of those positions you named are. I'm just a traditional squatter, I guess.
Right. Do you take like a pant leg out or both pant legs? Like some people get completely naked. Like, well, I get you don't have to answer completely naked, but partially naked.
No, the pants have to be in the knee area so that they move forward when you bend your knees, right?
Not so far down that you also pee on your pants. Wait.
Yeah, if you put your pants around your ankles, then it's you're in danger zone.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'll send you some links afterwards. I'll send you a link to Justin's OnlyFans, which is exclusively different of Justin's favorite pooping positions. And you.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's me contributing to this podcast.
Okay, moving.
No, I have one more question, but it's more centered. This is a segue question into other questions. Ben, you could have made any product in the world. As Justin already introduced, you are a keen engineering mind, and you fixated on making you know, arguably the world's greatest trowel. Why a trowel? What motivated the culmination of your energy onto this specific product?
Well, I'm first of all, I'm flattered that you think it's that great. I also think it's great, but I don't think anybody's ever called it world's greatest yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the first.
I
Thanks.
feel like I feel like I have.
We'll run with
I
that
feel
one.
like I have.
Okay. Oh, yes.
I can send you a
Um,
badge if you'd like. Justin Outdoors
oh,
World Greatest Award. No
oh,
one has one.
that'd be
It'd be
awesome.
the world premiere.
That would be awesome. So that's for the question. So this it really came about accidentally in a lot of ways because this is not my first attempt to make something to sell. I really enjoy the process of kind of like having an idea and bringing it into reality. That's my whole gig, really. That's what I like to do as a kid. So that's why, I chose engineering as a field of study. That's pretty much my main hobby, is just tinkering like that. So all the other things, like I was into mountain biking really, really a lot for a long time, and um, now hiking, backpacking, canoeing, all kinds of stuff. It's like I think my original fun thing that I really love to do is just tinker like that. So there's a few attempts before that I would had an idea that I thought, you know what, this is actually quite a bit nicer than the leading stuff on the market. I should try to make them, and then it just didn't go anywhere. It didn't take off. And this one, after the whole design process, with like months of playing around with it and studying different ways of doing it and making prototypes. So I have one that I think is pretty darn good, and I put it on Etsy, and people start buying it immediately. So it's like that's it, That's so it just started. So it's almost like I didn't choose the trowel. You know what I mean? It's like it was the thing that was out there that needed to be made. So
I love that. Kind of like Excalibur. Like you were the one that was chosen to be able to pull the trowel out of the ground. Like
there you go. This is great. It's another badge.
Yeah.
no, that's awesome.
So you just kind of like woke up and you're like, and just started like, was it kind of just like an initial tinkering? Like, do you do some like paper napkin drawings to kind of kick off like, and then you're like, oh, this is looking kind of good. And then took it to like stamping some metal or.
Yeah, well, it started with a competing trowel that's still on the market that I used several times and didn't really think was a very optimized. I immediately was thinking of ways to make it better. So like, no, I'm making my own. I'm totally starting from scratch. So I started making them out of like all kinds of materials, carbon fiber. I still have a few carbon fiber trowels, which look awesome, but don't actually work that great. But anyway, settled on the material, the thickness, the shape, the way it's bent, all just step by step. And that's. It took a long time. It was probably like 2 months of messing around with trowels. So the first time I thought like, oh, I'm gonna make one of these. It's just an idea, and really the first idea was the little plastic handle, on the end. It's like that's obviously needed, and then it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good transition into talking about the thought process behind each feature. Like, I just want to run through. Like, there's a lot of once you look at like you think a trowel is it's just a trowel. Like it's a tiny shovel that you dig a hole with. But there's a lot of different little nuances with the Bogler trowel, and we'll have an image of it up in the corner as we go through for the people watching on YouTube. We'll describe it. But I think, like you mentioned, there's a little plastic, I think made out of ABS on the top here with some grommets to kind of screw it onto the top of the trowel. What's I guess maybe run through like what's the purpose of that, and how did you come like land on having that exact kind of piece, that size, that shape at the top of the trowel there?
Well, it's kind of minimalist design. That's the the spot that will decrease the pain in your hand the most, while you're digging, because that's where you need to push on it the hardest, is when you're pushing straight down into the ground. Um, so I actually tried other things. I was trying like a little roll of metal, or a little piece of rope or something, or a little rubber trim. Um, so the ABS plastic is 3D printable, which is great because that's something that I've really been into for a while. So I was printing them, and I still am, because it's a really efficient process. So the ABS is the only, well, I would say the best plastic for this job, because it's very weather resistant. It's like UV resistant. It doesn't, crack or whatever. Actually, I have one of these, like when I first started to make the ABS ones. It's the rubber for a while, like I said. So then I made it. I put one out on my porch. It's like hanging on a wire, like in a really sunny spot. Because I thought, I just want to see what it looks like if the color fades. If it starts to get like the plastic breakdown. It's still out there. What has that been, like 3 years now? I think a few squirrels have tried chewing on it, but it's really tough. Good plastic. It's the perfect plastic for the
I like
job.
the
So
idea of you having like a Bogler wind chime on your front porch of just like a bunch of trowels. Just like, imagine your neighbors would think you were quite the character. But I like that as like a visual.
that's
I think that's a good idea. I think I'm gonna make like a little like ultralight string that you get a stick, and then once you get to camp, you can set up your trowel wind chime with all your friends.
Yeah. Or
huh.
you could do a Bogler trowel mobile for like it could be like a kid's variation of something that kind of just like spins around. Uh,
Little mini
no,
trowel. Oh,
no
yeah,
licensing fees needed for that idea, Ben. That one's yours.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is great. I'm gonna write some of these down.
Yeah. I think. Well, you mentioned the durability of the ABS. We'll definitely get into. I have some questions for you, just kind of because the trowel's been on the market now for a couple of years, and just curious like what you've seen. And I think, Lloyd, you guys sell a lot of Bogler trowels at Garage Run Gear, so nothing lasts forever. But I think like I've been using the same trowel for a couple of years now, and it's still going strong. But maybe there's someone out there who uses it every single day or something like that you guys have encountered. So I'll be curious to hear about that. But let's jump into. I kind of warmed you up talking about the holes in the trowel a bit, because there's four holes that go down the handle, and I'm just curious like why the holes in the trowel, and then we'll get a little bit more about the holes as well, because I think there's some interesting kind of aspects to that too.
So why the 4 holes?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good question. So there's a lot of explanations for that. It's a weight savings. It's a very small weight savings though. It gives better grip, like your fingers kind of fall into the holes, especially your thumb kind of just slides into one of the holes a little bit. I mean, not all the way in, obviously, but it gives you something to grip onto. And the hole at the very top, it means you could put a little carabiner on it, whatever. You can tie it to your pack, and then the 2 holes in the middle, not in the middle, but these 2 holes are centered around the like center of the surface area of the trowel. So that means if you put a rope through those 2 holes, then it's an ice stake or a dead man's stake, and you can bury it like that. So yeah, and then it's also just a kind of design element. I think it's like makes it look longer almost. I'm not sure.
I think it looks good. Yeah, I think that's a good. I'm just noticing just now, like I've looked at this trowel probably hours on like over the combined 2 years that I've had it, I don't have like a little shrine or anything, but I definitely stare at it as I'm pooping. Like I carry it, so but I'm just noticing now. It looks like the third hole from the top is slightly smaller than the other three holes.
That's right, because that is near the middle. That is near the most stressed part of the trowel when you stick it into the ground. If you were to jam it into the ground and then pry backwards to pry up a big chunk of soil, uh, the middle of the trowel is going to see the most bending stress, and so I try to leave as much material in that area as possible. So that hole is just this tad smaller.
Interesting. Did that come about from testing? Were like you testing like the strength of the trowel, like when you're like prying with it, and then that part had like a failure, and you're like, yeah, I just need to change it by like 3 millimeters or something, and then that,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Yep. I mean, it's really hard to break like that. I actually continually test them. Like every once in a while, I just really try to break it to see if it will break in some special way that I haven't seen before. And so originally, the way that I would commonly break them, which is really hard, like I almost can't do it with my hand. I would have to use my feet to mash it into the ground and backwards, and it would bend in half in the middle. So I was trying to find methods of making that stronger. So the bends are pretty steep in that area, and then the hole's a little bit smaller. That's not even the main failure point now. Now, when I try to break them, I'm more likely to break it near the tip. Like if you get the tip stuck under a rock, you can fold the tip backwards. But that's also pretty hard to do because it's like it's obvious that it's stuck in something.
Yeah, I've pried some pretty aggressive rocks out with it. I'm like, well, I have a backup at home, so if I break this right now, it's for science, and I'll let Ben know. But it doesn't break. It's been great for prying rocks. That's like one of the things I was kind of most worried about with the lightweightness of the way of the trowel. But yeah, it's been very durable for me. And I think you kind of mentioned the folds in the trowel. I think for the people listening, it's kind of like if you kind of have four kind of sides to the trowel. You have this, and it kind of creates this scoop. I guess I'm not describing that very well, but if it kind of curves up. So like the part that you dig the dirt out with kind of creates like a spoon, and that kind of spoon shape runs up the rest of the handle as well. Is there how'd you land on like the angles of those like different parts of the trowel, and like because it goes from like a steeper side wall to like a little bit of a shallower to this like point in the middle, then shallow side, and then steeper side. So it's definitely like it's not just a consistent kind of curve. It's very intentional.
Not any really straight lines or straight bends on it. It's each bend is pretty special. I made my own tool to do that because the bending tools that I had available to me, that are basically all of the bending tools available, are for making straight bends. Where it makes the same angle of bend across the material. So I had to make my own tools to make a bend, and once I had made those tools, it's kind of infinite possibilities. It's like, it doesn't even have to have the same rate of change of bend all the way across. I can bend it as much as I want in any particular way. So, and then it's just a lot of trial and error. But it's basically so that I can stick with the thickness of material, which is the thinnest possible material that I can get to be strong enough to be a tough, reliable tool. And this mainly because of the way that it's bent.
Okay. And so are those bends so I guess like in the shovel end, and we'll work our way down the trowel back down towards the business end where you're digging dirt with. Like that for most people out there, they'd be like, okay, yeah, like a spoon shape is going to be better for digging dirt, like a shovel shape, spoon shape. But then the angle kind of continues up the handle of the trowel. Is that like on all those angles for you mentioned kind of structural stability? That's kind of the main point. So you can use as light of material as you can while still having like a rigid enough structure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Those. Yeah. The way the handle is bent is for structure, and then the open part, what you call the scoop part, is kind of as open as it can be useful without just totally flattening it out, because if it's flat, it becomes a little bit flimsy. Like if I handed you a piece of this material that wasn't bent, I think you would be amazed at how easy it is to bend when it's flat. If it's like a sheet of paper, But in this size, with this level, amount of bends, it just becomes really rigid.
Yeah,
It's
it's really
magic.
rigid. There's a little bit of like kind of like cross like torque to it if you like twist it, but that
Yeah.
you're not really encountering that kind of motion like when you're digging a cat hole. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like
a lot of people mention that, they say like, oh, I can bend it. And we're like, well, you can move it, but you're not bending it. And if you actually want to like bend it so that it permanently stays that way, it's harder than you think. And then also, you don't twist it sideways while you're using it. You're pushing down and back and whatever. It's
Probably some of that like
yeah.
bendability is what prevents it from breaking, I would imagine, to some extent. I mean, similarly, Ben, I think I have the trowel that you sent me as a sample, like however many years ago, and I don't feel like it's at any risk of not being a functional trowel in the next decade. you know, and in terms of like we have certain products that we have like continue. I mean, just like products in general, there's a lot that are great products and still have issues. Like those are not like those are not like exclusive ideas. But you know, your trowel is a product that like we just don't really have issues with. And if people had issues with them, we would hear about it, or at least our customer service team would hear about it.
Yeah.
And you know,
Nice. Yeah. I occasionally get those in email, and I actually really enjoy getting those emails. Somebody will send me a picture, of what happened. And it's like, I really learn a lot from that. It's just a small handful of these, we're talking like one out of many thousands that, I get, somebody will email me because it's a lifetime warranty. Yeah. If you break it, then yeah, please send me a picture, email me. I'll send you a new one. And I actually really want to see what happened, because that's the design is continuing to be tweaked.
that's the
So.
sign of a good product. I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, just that like, yeah, maybe it will get tweaked and have different iterations, but it still means that the current iteration is really good and is working for a ton of people.
yeah. I feel like there's probably a lot of companies out there that would love to have the failure rate that you have with these trowels for their products.
And okay, so that's another thing that I'm really is great about how this happened to me, is because I'm basically running this very tiny factory. I make it all here under one roof, and I can change anything about it at any time, and um, that's pretty great. Like if it was a large company and they designed a thing and then they send it to be made somewhere, maybe not in the U.S., and and then they get 10,000 of them back, and then discover, oh, you know what I mean? This little part of it maybe could have been made stronger, but it's too late. They've got 10,000 of them, and so they sell them, and things go wrong, and they have to deal with it that way. It's like I'm pretty much making these as I go, and it all happens right here, from taking in the raw material to shipping out the final product. But at any point, I could decide to change something that wasn't working, and I've done that a few times. From the beginning, there's been a few very very slight tweaks, like change the angle of this, change the size of this part or that part. Tiny, tiny changes. And I'm really happy I can do that. That's kind of the micro factory way to do it.
That's good, neat. Like, I
Which
mean, I
I'm
think that's
really
the coolest thing
interested in.
about cottage brands in general is that like ability to be flexible, the ability to like actually have customer feedback and product experience like immediately impact the product. And I mean, we've definitely worked with brands. I won't name names, but like, yeah, they've gone to work with domestic manufacturers, and this isn't a reason not to necessarily, but yeah, they sent a whole bunch of fabric over to a company to be able to turn them into products. The samples look good that they got, and then they just made them wrong, you know, like hundreds, thousands of units. And it can be really crippling. And it's, yeah, like there are, as you said, like real benefits to having your own production, your own little micro factory, and having just that level of control and detail over your products is pretty awesome.
And and hopefully that's just gonna increase. I think you're in the Lloyd, you're in the position to see this happening there at Grosh Growing Gear. I think as more and more like kind of digital manufacturing stuff, I'm thinking about like 3D printers and laser cutters and like CNC, mills that you can put on your desktop, this kind of thing. That opens up so many doors to people to make their own gear. I mean, you can make your own gear anyway, but it's like if you want to make a bunch of them, then it's really there's so many options. We're not limited to these ways that to make things even from like 10 years ago. All this digital manufacturing is really nice.
It's been cool seeing the transition of like back in the day, like 10 years ago, you mentioned 20 years ago. I think the cottage industry was probably seemed much more focused around like things that you could sew and put together that way, because I think that was the technology that was accessible at the time. But now, like you're saying, with 3D printers, more accessible CNC machines, all these technologies that allow you to make hard goods now, we're seeing some really cool innovation in cottage brands coming up who are doing work around that. It's really exciting, because I think we're kind of getting into a little bit more, but I think you just mentioned too, like we're probably just at the tip of the iceberg as far as where this could go down the road.
Oh yeah, tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about 3D printing. So I was always in love with 3D printing even before it was like available to people. Like when I was in college, 3D printer was like something in a few labs. Like national laboratories. And then when you could buy one, I was like so excited to buy one and playing around with it for so long. And now, like looking back, it's like the 3D printers now compared to back then are just so much better. It's amazing. So then you think, okay, 10 years from now, what are we going to have? Are we going to, print stuff out of metal? Oh, that would be so awesome. Or who knows? Who knows? It's the tip of the iceberg, like you said.
No, I mean,
I think we still see.
I was just going to say, like, I mean, I was just at this outdoor conference this past weekend, and the big topic of conversation was AI and artificial intelligence, and like, there's no way that gear manufacturing isn't eventually going to have some type of interface where one just gets to describe something that one wants, and a 3D printer is going to be able to make some iteration of it, and it won't even be like a need to be able to draw out or spec things. Like there will be artificial intelligence that will just be able to take your ideas and turn them into stuff, which I think it just exemplifies the fact that like this is a whole new world of I mean, even just you being able to do your own manufacturing and Ben also just do it on real scale. Like you've been able to grow Bogler to being something where it's seemingly you aren't super limited by your production quantities, which is an incredible thing, given the fact that, if you're sewing 2,000 pouches a month, like, holy buckets, is that hard to find sustainability to that as a cottage company? But if you're able to intertwine 3D printing parts And I don't know, just like more advanced technology to it. It gives pathways for cottage companies, these types of cottage companies, to actually be sustainable and scalable.
Mhm. Yep. Yes, scalability is probably is huge too. And I'm curious, Ben, if you wouldn't mind sharing. No worries if not. How many trowels would you be able to pump out in, like, let's say, like either an hour, or maybe if that's too small of a scale, like a 8 hour day?
Mm. Yeah, even one day is hard to really visualize because of the way the steps go. I do so it's like, I mean, I have a lot of spreadsheets for all this stuff, but I'm just gonna kind of spitball here. Let's say that there's like 30 steps, start to finish, to get a finished trowel. Um, they all happen pretty spaced out. Like I'll do step one, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and then you know what I mean. And then step 2 through 4, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So it's really um,
I'm
it's a kind
guessing
of
you don't have
pipeline. You know what I mean?
ADHD.
No, it's yeah. No, doing this kind of work is kind of therapeutic. It's like, I mean, I have to, of course, anybody who worked in a kind of factory is going to say that it's horrible, and it kind of is, repetitive work. But when, as I'm doing the repetitive work, I'm able to do something else if I get tired of it. So it's not like, I'm in a sweatshop working, working my fingers to the bone. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I get tired of that. I move to, do something else for a while. But in
Would
that
it be
way, it's
like a hundreds order of magnitude, or like kind of thing, or like dozens, like
oh
for a
yeah.
week?
So you asked like in a day.
Yeah.
So
We could
the
do
whole
like a week too,
pipeline.
and just like a general kind of like order of magnitude estimate. Like,
Okay, and then I don't do it all by myself. My girlfriend helps me a lot. Shout out to Shutan, she's great. So um, we will, if we're actually working like the whole week, it's going to be a couple thousand.
nice. That's good. That's a solid production. That's cool. Yeah. I did want to get back to the, we derailed a little bit, which is okay. I think we went halfway down the trowel as far as the different features. So it was probably a good time to kind of like have a few side tangents about AI, and like I did want to get into the manufacturing process. We kind of touched on, maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. A
Well,
little bit
here's
here.
a little side tangent. Is that I owe a lot of this to both of you guys. So first there was Lloyd, who reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we carry your product?" Back then I was only on Etsy, and do you remember this, Lloyd? You were like, "Hey, I'm here at GGG, and we wanted to know if we could carry your product." And I was like, "What is this? Who is this?" And so I googled GGG, and it was like a billion things came up, but not Garage Grown Gear. And so I emailed you back, like, I'm sorry, what is GGG? It's like Garage Grown Gear. Now looking back, I'm like, oh, this is an amazing company. It's
That's awesome.
great. Really, really wonderful site that you're running there. Really great service to a lot of the backpackers and the makers. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a
And
win-win-win situation with that.
yeah.
That's the best part. Yeah.
And then Justin, I have to thank too for all of the shout outs on YouTube, which are like the best advertisements that I've ever had. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you for making an awesome trowel that makes it easier for me to poop in the backcountry. Again, win-win, everyone. Win-win-win.
Ben, I spent the first like 5 years of Garage Grown just explaining to everyone what Garage Grown was. So at that point, I was probably just like, oh yeah, this is what I do on a daily basis, is explain what this thing is. Now I get to do it a little bit less. Fortunately, there's more people in the world who know about what Garage Grown is. But oh man, there was a time where it was like, what what tongue twister word are you saying? Do you sell used gear out of a garage? Like, what? I don't get it.
What are
Yeah,
you
like,
growing?
tell me.
Did you use
Right.
fertilizer?
No, but that means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Ben. I think it's I love encountering good products. I think Lloyd's the same way, like cruising Etsy and finding cool stuff, cool people, and yeah, it's always nice when everything lines up and watching Bogler grow. And I think get like I was telling you before this, I'm like, this is awesome for me because I'm such a big fan. So it's cool to like chat and kind of run, especially even just like hearing the explanation of the top half of the trowel has been like really cool and mind blowing for my brain. So I'm excited to dive into the bottom half, the business end of the trowel, as some might call it, because there's some cool things going on down there too. Like maybe let's talk about this spoon shape, because like you do see trowels out there that are they're just like they're just parallel lines from the handle all the way down to the shovel, but yours flares out to have like an actual kind of shovel, like a shovel would, I guess, or a spoon. It was is that just like move more dirt, and how do you kind of land on how much shovel to have at the business end?
Okay, the whole overall size is. I think okay. The original idea was that it fits into what is it, like a quart size Ziploc? Because that's just how I carried my toilet kit at the time, and so I wanted it to fit nicely into that size of Ziploc bag, and so it came out to 7.25 inches, which is also nice because that's what is it, like 6 to 8 inches is the standard for a cat hole. So it's like, okay, if you dig it down all the way, so that when the the depth of the trowel, you got your proper cat hole. So then the width of the end of it is sort of, I don't know, just sort of kind of proportional to the length in how useful it is. Because if it was just too wide, you could scoop more, but I think you wouldn't. I don't know. It just run into issues about like how you use it. I think how it kind of fits in your hand. So the width of the digging end, is you can kind of use it to scrape sideways and pull the loose dirt out. And it also has the point to help you poke through and dig into harder soil.
Yep. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that I've always liked. Like if people are watching, you can see there's serrated edges. There's serration on one edge. Like if you're just looking at it point up on the left hand side, there's a serrated edge there with kind of teeth. I'm guessing like the big thing that I use that for is cutting through roots. Is that the
That's
design
exactly
purpose for that?
that's exactly what it's for. Yep.
Okay, and it works well for that. I've taken like roots and like sawed them just like full like half-inch roots, and it cuts through that really well. Is there a reason why that side but not on the other side? Because it on the trowel it's only on one side.
Well, I think it's a kind of minimalism thing again, and also because the teeth. So when I was first making them, I had a little bit of a fear, like the teeth are sharp enough to damage other things in my pack if I just kind of throw it in there, or like put it in a plastic bag. It will cut through the plastic bag. Turns out that that's not really a problem. I've never actually had that as a problem, I just didn't want to put teeth everywhere. So I thought, okay, the minimum number of teeth on it is where I want to go. So yeah, it just has the teeth on that side for cutting roots, and the teeth right in the leading edge for cutting through, like straight down, small roots.
Are you right-handed?
Yeah, I'm right-handed, and for a time I actually sold two versions of this, a left-handed and a right-handed.
Oh, interesting.
And so I was kind of going back and forth with that for a long time. and I would ask, and because I only sold like 2 of those, I think, and so I was asking a lot of my my friends, my left-handed friends about it, and they were like, no, basically it doesn't matter. They just do it whichever hand they want. So nobody's seemed to really be bothered but it only having on one side. So I just went with that. But there's still a possibility of reconsidering that, I would say.
That's interesting because it cuts clockwise, and that's the way the teeth go in order to get the. And I find with my right hand, it's really just intuitive to cut clockwise. But when I play around with it, I'm like thinking if I was holding my left hand, I'd probably want to cut counterclockwise. But yeah, and I was wondering why not on the other side. The minimalism makes sense, but I wonder if we'll see a trowel with like little teeth on the other side at some point or not.
Well, I mean, I can make them.
Yeah.
So if you want a trowel with teeth on the other side, as a left-handed going around the circle left-handed to dig out the roots, please send me an email.
I guarantee you would sell some.
Maybe I'll poll my YouTube audience, see how many people cut counterclockwise versus clockwise in their cat hole, or if they don't, or if they cut both ways. Because sometimes you cut like the first half of the hole one way and then you go around the other side. That's what I find myself doing occasionally when I'm cutting a hole. But I'm not sure that many people are analyzing their cat hole digging process as much as I do.
I think you might have thought about it more than me, possibly. Gosh, but I want to know more about this. Yeah.
People ask me all that, like I get really deep into like really minor processes in my day-to-day life and when backpacking, and it sometimes
that's awesome. Detail oriented.
Yeah, my wife laughs at me because our brains work very, very differently, and we're moving, and our realtor laughs at me and says that I'm crazy. And
I think is it a thing that detail-oriented people are drawn to ultralight backpacking? Does that seem like a little bit more of a connection than just happenstance?
I think that's probably accurate. Yeah, based on my experience. Yeah, I think people who aren't as detail-oriented probably just don't even notice the minor kind of inconveniences or like the weight or like even what product they're using. Like you see it all the time, kind of just in the broader backpacking world. People are like, what pack do you have? It's like, I have an Osprey or I have a Hyperlite. It's like, that's how they describe their gear. Not like I have an Osprey 55 liter Exos or like whatever the very specific model number made with like ultra fabric. I feel like that's what an ultralight person would say is like, I have an Arc Haul with ultra 100X fabric and
and the whole kind of challenge of like going further with less, going places that people haven't gone or rarely go. And, it's a very, it's a technical kind of challenge, right? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's something that we haven't really touched on. I think that's one of the things that I really like about the Bogler Trowel too, is that it's a lot of the time, like for ultralight gear and cottage gear, like there's a bit of a premium on top of that. But I think like the trowel's really well priced. It makes it really accessible for basically anybody. That's why like it shows up in so many of my videos. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner backpacker, an experienced backpacker, an ultralight backpacker. It's going to work for you, and you're going to get the weight savings, but you're also going to get the performance. So it's like, why kind of bother with most other trowels out there unless you're like trying to dig through concrete? Like that's probably where it's kind of hits a little bit of a wall. But
oh yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, Justin. This is something that drives me. So I think that the whole point is to get out, to explore, like to be able to go to these places that are just so remote and just enjoy the world out there. So it's like I agree with you. I don't think there should be a premium on something, especially that's like a trowel should be pretty. I'm sorry, I just dropped it. I made a noise. It should be pretty basic. Like, it should be pretty much in everybody's kit, right? So I want to make it as low cost as I can. That was part of the design process. Like I told you before, that I also considered carbon fiber, which wouldn't have been cheap at all. But anyway, so the most of what I'm doing now is kind of like trying to push to make the trowel better and also be able to make it less expensive. So I've already lowered the price a couple times, like in a very minor way, and that's going to keep happening. Like next year and the year after that, these are the long term goals. I want the product to keep getting better and also be able to sell it at a lower price. Because I think that's important. It shouldn't be something that breaks the bank. It's like everybody needs one of these. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love that philosophy. I don't think it's there's not that many products out there that are decreasing prices after certain periods of time. So that's neat.
Well, I mean, the phrase "race to the bottom" comes to mind, but and I don't want to be like doing that because I'm not going to decrease the quality. It's going to get better. I already have. I'm looking at ways of making it better. I mean, I don't want to like say too much, but
that's all we need to know. That tweaks the interest. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna keep getting better, and the price will trend down. Yeah.
Unless aluminum prices go through the roof, and then
hopefully not.
Yeah.
Boy, that pandemic was rough though. That blew up aluminum prices. But anyway, that's great.
I think that's I think we kind of touched on the material there and why it is the material that it is and why it's like the thickness that it is. So that was interesting to hear about. I think I wanted to ask before we kind of wrap things up is something that I'm interested in, especially for like when we get the designers on these podcasts and people who like you're probably always looking at the trowel, tinkering with it, using it. Are there some like tips or tricks or hacks that you've like discovered for the trowel or that you know of? I think you already mentioned one where the two bottom holes, if you put a piece of cord through them, you can like use that as a dead man anchor in snow or something like that, and a very lightweight dead man anchor and stake in that way. Are there other kind of tips and tricks out there that have?
I mean, the other thing is that it can be used as a tent stake if you really have to. Although then if you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you have to unstake your tent. But anyway, so you can loop the cord through the top hole and then just kind of fold it over. So you don't have to, if you have a loop on your tent line, you don't have to undo the loop and tie it through a hole. You can poke it through and just flip it over the top.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's not really a trick. Seems
I bet that's a trick, yeah. I never would have thought about that, yeah.
Well, there's somebody who once told me it makes a great ice cream scoop. So I don't know, scoop ice cream at your own risk, depending on how clean your trowel is. But
so at our wedding, we bought ice cream from down the street at our favorite ice cream shop. We bought a whole bunch of gallon jugs of ice cream and put them in coolers, but then put dry ice into the coolers. And the ice cream got rock solid because I think dry ice is like 50 degrees colder than regular ice. And it would have been good to have one of these trowels because people were putting the ice cream in. It's the best ice cream you've ever had. And people were like so excited for it. But then they couldn't get at the ice cream there. So they're like microwaving it. People were on the dance floor, like holding ice cream and dancing with it. We bought like 24-gallon jugs of ice cream and we only had about 3 left, like the ones that people couldn't really get at. But that's how how much people were like trying to get this ice cream is they still managed to eat 20 gallons of ice cream. That was the hardest ice cream that you've ever encountered. It like bending spoons and everything.
So cross marketing there for you.
Yeah. Get into the wedding game. That's you could probably charge a little bit more, get some higher margins.
Sure.
Wedding.
Yeah, wedding ice cream scooper.
Well, the other thing is I've given these to a lot of friends, and I've also heard that it makes, and I've done this myself. It makes for great indoor gardening. Like potting plants and stuff. It's pretty good size for that.
Yeah, I think the scoop on the end, like just this is the kind of scoop size that I would use for some gardening, even outdoor gardening. Like, still has good hand feel. Like, that's something like that that we didn't really get into too much around, like the curve of the handle. Is I find it just sits in the hand really nicely, and because of the way you get surface contact, it really doesn't hurt my hand in any way as I'm digging into the ground, which is definitely not the case with all trowels out there. So I think you nailed it, Ben, and I'm excited to see like the iterations and improvements. And even we were talking about like the trowel that I have is a couple of years old now, so I'm excited to kind of take a look at the newer version and see them side by side and measure up some of the little changes and everything like that. So yeah, it's I've enjoyed this conversation. Lloyd, how are you with the nerdy talk? Was it all right for you?
I enjoyed it. It's good. These are things that I don't think about. So I'm sure there's a part of audience listening that kind of enjoys gear how I do, which is surface level. I like things that are functional, and so the majority of my thoughts around the Bogler trowel are like, this works really well, and it is a luxury to not have to think about it because it just does what I need it to do. So because it is so simple and because it is so effective, you as a designer, Ben, have given me the luxury of not having to think about it at all. So I have chosen, unlike Justin, to not think about it at all. And so these lines of thinking and lines of thought, are great because I haven't thought of the answers because I haven't thought of the questions. Other than, of course, like the cap at the end is obviously like a no-brainer visual. Yes, this is brilliant. But
I'm curious. Yeah. What color do you guys rock for the end of the Bogler trowel? Orange.
Oh gosh, I think I normally go neon green now. I think bright green.
That's a good one. I think I've been rocking the orange too. I have a yellow one here because the orange one's in my poop kit. But I don't know. I go with orange for like a variety of different colors, mostly because I don't want to get shot by hunters. And I guess I'm just thinking like, yeah, the ginger hair there for Lloyd. But I guess the orange on the trowel is probably not preventing hunters from shooting me too much. But you never know.
That'd be a bad way to go.
I think orange is just a kind of traditional color for small backpacking stuff. Right.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true. Yeah. So Ben, thank you for being on the podcast. That was a blast. I hope people next time that they're taking a poop and looking at their trowel, they look at it with a little bit more kind of like thought behind it and admiration. And yeah, it's been great chatting. If people want to check out the Bogler trowel, I'll have all links to probably Garage. I don't think you sell trowels on your website, do you?
Me? No, yeah. Actually,
no.
I don't.
So I'll have a link to Garage Growing Gear, and
yes.
people can go check it out there and pick up a trowel and decide which color trowel person you are, and once you get there. So and Lloyd, always a pleasure.
A blast.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you. And we'll definitely chat soon, and we'll talk to you later.